Hello and welcome to the first Self Improvement Australia weekly Q&A. Woo!
Woo!
Surprised that James doesn't have his soundboard ready to go for this exact moment because it's so insane.
Oh, don't you worry, Ethan. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm getting some questions, not out of our community, but out of AI because, right, we're providing this mad service and no one's asked us any questions yet. So if you want to ask us some questions, you can leave them on the YouTube comments or you can comment on our Self Improvement Australia school page. But Ethan, how are you going? What's your thought of the day?
Oh my god. I haven't done one of these in a while. Um Going through the top of my head. Don't get bitter. Get
Get
better.
better. Nice.
Yeah. That's my thought of the day. Take that as you will. And James, what is your thought of the day?
That's pretty solid thought, Ethan. My thought
Thank you.
of the day is about these new headphones. So right now, normally I'd be using a mic, like this one that I prepared earlier. But these new headphones, I am absolutely in love with. They are waterproof, dustproof. I can like wear them in the shower, listen to sales trainings, and they've got a pretty solid mic array with decent background noise cancellation. So
Yeah, right.
I've been wearing these like as often as I can, listening to sales trainings like 8 hours a day at triple the speed. So I'm getting like 24 hours a day of sales training in my ear. It's amazing. I love them.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Now,
Very, very nice.
the AI has come back to me and it's got some good news for us. Would
Oh,
you
that's
like
good.
to get into it, sir?
Yes, I would love to.
The first question from, I'm going to call it Joe. The AI's name is now Joe.
That's
Joe
cool.
asks, no, it's Joe now. Joe asks, what unique challenges do Australians face in their surf improvement journeys?
Oh, do you want to take it away for this one? Because I'm gonna have to think for a little bit. Oh, that's a good one though. Like that's a good
It's a
question.
good one. They're getting smarter and smarter every day. So I think that a unique challenge for Australians is that if you're an American or an English person, uh, probably not any other nationalities. So it's like everyone who's not those two countries. I think a big problem that they face in self improvement is there's a lot of there's not as much of a community around self improvement outside of those countries.
Mm.
So, England, you have a lot of like influencers who are into self improvement, which is great. But then those influencers end up usually moving to America because America is the land of the free and it's the home of business and all of those things. And so I think a unique challenge outside of those two countries is that there's just not as many people who are into self improvement, business, da 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 da. And also, Australia is such a spread out place. Like trying to, you know, concatenate a group in Australia is a really difficult thing to do. Like, if you had, say, the population of America on a landmass the size of Australia, which is what America is, you've got like, 12, 13 times as many people per sort of like square meter or whatever. So it's like there's a lot more people who could be on self improvement. But that's my
Following
thoughts. What do you
fo-
think it is?
following up on that, I'd also say as well because social media is just so abundant in this day and age, right? People like as you said, Australia is so spread out. So anyone who really is into self improvement probably just thinks, "Ah, I have social media. I can just do it by myself." What, as you said before, Americans and United Kingdom do very, very differently is that because there's a lot more people in less spaces, they can actually do a lot more with a community to try and like build up people. And yeah, I completely agree. Like that's probably like people in Australia, they're just like, oh well, I've got social media, I can just do better by looking at social media. That's a great way to start. But then you don't really have like that community aspect, which for most, like for some people, like that's not what they want, which is completely fine. But if you want that community building, it's a bit harder because everything is like so spread out. Like for example, I live in Brisbane, which is in Queensland. I have friends who live on the north side of town, which is like 40-minute drive, right? If you're in New York City, you have friends that like just live 2 streets away, and there's millions more people just in those 2 streets.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna quickly look up because I have a feeling. Okay, so the population of New York in 2022 was 8.3 million people, which is quite impressive. And it's got 4 area codes. So 4 postcodes equals 8.3 million people. For
So, like,
context,
2 million people per postcode.
to average it out, yeah. Queensland has 2.2 million people, and it's the size of like Texas. Like the whole American state of Texas is Queensland, and we still have like a quarter of the population of New York. And we're the 3rd most populous state in Australia. Like it's very spread out by comparison. It's wild.
To be fair, most people do live like southeast Queensland, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Caboolture, Sunshine Coast. But again, if you have someone that lives in all the way up North Queensland, Cairns, Mackay, all of that, and they're like, there's only like 6 people in the entire town that actually like this type of shit, the chances are that they're probably just never going to like run into each other. And if they do, they then have to try and like figure out times to be able to help each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have an organic question now, if you'd like to change tack.
Oh, we do? From who?
We do have organic questions now. So one of our newest members, only level 1, Sarah Matheson, has asked, how do you make ads that convert? And we have more gym questions immediately after. But
well, James,
how do you make ads that convert?
Go for the ads question because you are the king, the genius of Facebook ads.
Has anyone ever told you I'm a genius, Ethan?
Yeah, me. Multiple times.
You're a good man. No. I think I actually will bring it back around to you, Ethan. But as far as ads that convert, you're never just making an ad that converts. So you're running ads basically to get eyeballs, and then it's just getting the right eyeballs in the maximum like efficiency possible, and then having them go to whatever your other thing is, and your other thing in relation to the ads has to convert. So when you say making ads that convert, you really want to have like a full, I guess, stack that converts, if you like. So how I would think about it is I would definitely start out with just simple single image ads. And I would just repeat the same ad over and over and over and over and over again until you can figure out what copy works. So all of the ad platforms, they have ways that you can split test. And I would just keep going over and over until you figure out what actual text copies like the best. And then from there, once I've got the good text, I would start trying to work out good images. And then once I've figured out good images, I might branch into video. I'm not actually a huge fan of video ads, but I will say I've been running a few for Self Improvement Australia, and their link click-through rate is a lot better. So maybe you'll figure them out before I do. But once you've got that flow coming in pretty steadily, that's when you need to start thinking about, like, realistically, the best click-through rate that you're going to expect is like 10%. And so by the time that you're at, say, a link click-through rate of 5%, you need to start asking yourself, like, am I more likely to add 50% to my link click-through rate, or would it just be easier if I made everything else convert 50% better? Or could I make the actual like customer that's buying worth more? And that's why I'm going to bring you back into it, Ethan, because one thing that I haven't done, but I should have done, is once I've got either a customer, an email address, whatever your ad is going to, I should have spent more time actually trying to sell them into something that's more expensive, worth more to me, and also, you know, more valuable to them. So what are your thoughts on, like, once someone's clicked on your Facebook ad and you've got an email address or a phone number, I guess, what do you do from there to make it, to sell them on something that's even better?
Well, I mean, you have to contact them, right? Like you need to be able to, like, if they give an email address or a phone number. Personally, I would probably use the phone number, especially since we're such like of a smaller community right now. It's a bit more personal to be able to actually just do the phone number. Contact them, tell them that what this amazing thing that we're doing at the moment is and how we want you to be a part of it. And I haven't got a full script written out, but that would, like, to generate leads, like, you can have organic leads and then you can have created leads, right? And if you've got the phone number or the email address, probably the best way would just be to be contacting people, like what you've been doing recently with a little project on the side that you've got going on. With the email address, though, I mean, I've never done like a campaign with email addresses before, so haven't really touched too much on copywriting. But at the same time, I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult to like create something that would be worthwhile for someone to read. Yeah, honestly, it's just taking the courage to actually like go out and contact people. Like the last couple of days, I've been messaging just people on my Facebook. I've got like 1,200 people on Facebook, and be like, "Hey man, how are you? What's new?" And then build some rapport from there. And then I'm like, "Cool. Well, look, listen. Reason why I've messaged you out of the blue is I've got this amazing thing I'm doing at the moment called Self Improvement Australia. Blah 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 blah." Right. So if you don't have the money though for to run ads right now, I mean, probably the best way would just be what Alex Hormozi says, that a lead is someone that you can directly message or get in contact with. If you've got like 3,000 people on social media, those are 3,000 leads waiting to be messaged.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Just now that I've heard you say that, another thing that I've remembered is you want to make sure that you're trying to target the warmest audience possible. And so one part of making ads that convert is actually having like a really strong organic content machine as well. So the more times that people see your thing, the more that they're gonna maybe not trust, but they're not going to be like as opposed to seeing you. Like if someone sees you one time, one day, and then immediately after they see you, you call them up and you're like, "Oh, my name is James and I'm going to sell you on Self Improvement Australia." Like, it's just very forward. So I think definitely run retargeting audiences for this. But if you can stretch out your ads over a longer period of time, the effectiveness of the ads does increase, but also the amount of people that they can reach starts to go down. So you kind of want to just stay right on that intersection for as long as you possibly can. That's also an aspect of it. But I might put out a Facebook ads course at some point. If that's something you're interested in, leave a 1 in the chat below. See how I did that, Ethan? I'm a genius.
I hate
This is
you.
why I'm Mr. Social Media.
I hate you.
The next question from Sarah is, how do you know how many calories to have in each phase? Cutting, maintenance, and bulk. I just left my coach and I don't know how to calculate it. Sad face emoji. All right, I need the soundboard now. It's too much. Can't live without it.
Cutting, maintenance, and bulk. I mean, are you still getting up your soundboard?
Yeah. Sorry.
Hmm.
I'm happy for you to start tackling it.
No, that's good. I mean, look, it's a difficult one, right? Because like everyone's metabolism and bodies kind of work a little bit differently. For myself, I bulked for like 2 years, from like April of 2022 to now, and I adjusted my calories like halfway through that. So I was eating like 4,000 calories at some point, and that was really, really tough. Like that was me forcing chicken and rice, a 2,000 calorie shake with a shit ton of olive oil in there, just to actually put on some mass. Mind you, I found a photo of me from April 2022 to now, and it worked, right? Like I look amazing compared to then. Like I was I was skinny fat. That was shit. Now I'm just bulky, but now we're in the cutting phase. So I don't know. I'd say probably 500 above your maintenance level. To be able to calculate your maintenance level, there's heaps of calculators online that you can just maintenance calorie level, right? And if you're losing weight, then like try it. Like say if you want to be like in a maintenance phase, just look up your maintenance calories, and after like 2 weeks, if you found out that you're losing weight or gaining weight, just adjust your calories accordingly. With a cut though, which is what I'm doing at the moment, I kind of gone a little bit extreme with my cut. So I'm only eating on average like less than 2,000 calories a day, but still hitting my 200 grams of protein every single day within that 2,000 calories. So again, it's just kind of like seeing, like, I don't know, most people say for cutting and bulking, it's like 300 to 500 calories on your maintenance, plus or minus.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. So just as a rule of thumb, and I should say this is a pretty loose rule of thumb, but if you take like however much you weigh and you multiply it by 30, that in grams, that is how many calories you need per day. So as an example, I'm 80 kilograms. Approximately, my maintenance is going to be 2,400. Like, my watch will tell me that it's going to be a little bit more than that, but, you know, it's not perfect conversion. If I eat, my watch tells me that my maintenance calories, 2293. So, you know, you're within 100 calories, and, you know, food labels aren't 100% accurate. You're never going to get 100% accuracy. So being within that like 5% margin of error, you should be pretty fine over the course of months. But yeah, your body weight in kilograms times by 30, that's how many calories you need for maintenance. And then if you just sort of start stepping it one way or the other. So as an example, if I wanted to bulk, I'd be like, all right, my maintenance is 2,400. I'm going to add 200 to that. And then I do that for maybe not a full mesocycle, maybe for like 2 or 3 weeks. I see where my calories end up. My body weight and such ends up. And I go, I haven't gained a kilogram. I need to bump this up another 200 calories. Or, you know, I bump it up by 200 calories to 2,600. and I gain like 5 kilograms in 2 weeks, and it's like, okay, that's a lot of food. Maybe we bump that back down by 100 calories. And I think the more that you do it by yourself, the better that you get at determining it. But yeah, that's just simple rule of thumb. That's how I do it. I'm sure there's other ways that are more accurate.
Just for James, so he can see this, right? Like, oh my god, that was me in like 2022. Hold on, I'll turn down my brightness a little bit.
Bueno. Damn.
That was me in like 2022, right? Like nothing on me, skinny as all hell. I was like, yeah, protein and creatine, that's going to be good. And then this was like, that was yesterday after the gym. 5. Game. Thank you. I'd love to be here all week. Now, again, I'm not saying like in industry standards, I did a dirty bulk. Like it was dirty. It was dirty. I was eating Maccas like 5 times a week because I was like, yeah, look, maybe it's a good, maybe it's a shit. If I was to do it again, I definitely wouldn't dirty bulk. I would have done it so much cleaner. But I'm happy with the end result now that I'm here. It's just now getting down to 85 kilos or 80 kilos and be completely shredded.
Completely shredded. Yeah.
But I hope that answers your question there, Sarah. Now, this is going to be a bit of a fight. I kind of hate that you asked this question. What is the best training split in your opinion?
Knowledge.
That's the correct one. And James, your knowledge is wrong.
Well, you're wrong, unfortunately. So, the correct answer, and this is
works best
not my opinion. Exactly. So, the correct answer is it depends on your goals. If you are inclined to go, I only have one goal, and that is to make my biceps the size of footballs, right? Then you're going to train very, very differently to someone who's like, my only goal is to compete in MMA and be like a lethal weapon. Like these people are going to have zero exercises in common. They're going to train completely differently. They're going to train at different times. They're going to emphasize different things. They're going to eat differently. Everything about it is going to be completely different. But for the average person who maybe doesn't have specific goals around, if you can't articulate the 3 main muscle groups that you need to develop right now, and you don't have a particular goal in terms of, I need to win a Mr. Olympia, I need to do a model shoot, I need to compete in MMA, whatever. If you can't articulate those specific goals and you don't have very specific weak points that you need to work on, I believe that full body workouts, full body splits are going to be the simplest and most effective in terms of time. And I will fight Ethan on that. But Ethan, what is your perspective?
I mean, look, yeah, I'm biased because I've been doing the same thing for the last 2 years and it's worked. So, but again, I do agree with you that it's what your goals are, right? If you just want to lose weight, you don't want to go to the gym, up the steps, up the cardio, you'll get there eventually. Get rid of a whole bunch of calories, boom, done, right?
We have a follow-up question. The question is, what if your goal is aesthetics?
Aesthetics. Okay, so toning everything. Okay, all right. Now the fight can begin.
Here we go.
Alrighty. So James and I have talked about this in another podcast episode, right? You can go listen to that. It's Mr. Full Body, Mr. Skip Leg Day. It's a clickbait title. I do fucking leg day. Okay, shut up. All right.
You tore your ACL. You had a pretty good
I wasn't able
excuse
to
to not
for
hit
ages
legs.
before my ACL, but now I can do it. All right, calm down. Fuck me. But I do a very, I'd say like a traditional like workout schedule, right? So I go to the gym 4 times a week, or sometimes 5, depending on how I feel. I'll do back, triceps, rear delts, abs, chest, biceps, front delts, side delts, leg day, which is my physio for ACL because I tore it, a full body day, and then if a 5th day I'm not feeling like doing everything on that day, I'll branch it out and do legs and shoulders on that day too. Why I do this? Well, thank you for asking, James. I very much appreciate that. I do this because so many people do this, right?
Bazinga.
You look at Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Alex Eubank, Max Taylor, right? They all have good splits and they give themselves plenty of rest to be able to build muscle. Okay? It means that I can fully maximize my gains by focusing on a few muscles at one time. James does full body, which blows my mind. I don't understand. It doesn't comprehend in my brain why you do full body, because I feel like you're not able to maximize your gains. You're not giving yourself enough rest. You're not able to build the muscle correctly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of benefits of full body. And if you're bodybuilding professionally, like if your job is to have muscles that are as big as humanly possible, then you can't do full body. But if you're not one of those freaks who is basically paid or paying, like, you know, hundreds of thousands, well, maybe not hundreds, but many thousands of dollars a year to specifically have the largest muscles possible, it's a lot simpler. Like, it's really hard to mess up if you're doing full body. And the reason that I say that is, you know, the thing about full body is that you're guaranteed to end up with a balanced physique. So if your goal in aesthetics is, I want to look good and I want to, you know, like be, let's just use attractive as sort of our metric for aesthetics. If you go to yourself, I just want to be attractive, that's all, that's my whole goal out of, you know, working out, going to the gym and such, it's just hard to go wrong with full body. If you do certain splits, I know that you're not a man, but if you're a man and you're like, yeah, man, I'm going to do bro splits, push-pull legs, and then you skip leg day because you don't feel like doing it, and then the next week you skip another leg day because, you know, it's leg day, and then eventually you end up gigantic top half and like little tiny chicken legs, you know? That's a really, really common thing to have happen. It's a, I don't know if risk is the right word, but it's definitely a drawback of doing bro splits. Like, you miss the same day accidentally for 2 weeks in a row. And then every other part of your development is 2 weeks ahead of that weak point. So I think full body, a benefit is it's actually going to look a little bit more natural. So if you take attractiveness as your metric for aesthetics, what humans are evolutionarily wired to find attractive is basically someone who's generally fit and healthy. Like, you are attracted to, say, big biceps, big chest, whatever, but in isolation, those aren't that like attractive or impressive. Like, if you see a tiny little guy, or there's that Indian guy that like injects oil into his biceps. He's got like 24-inch biceps, but the rest of him is basically a praying mantis. He just has gigantic biceps. And it doesn't look good. It just looks really, really strange. So the reason you're attracted to those things, they're not in isolation super attractive or aesthetic. It's as part of this better whole. And so by training full body, first of all, you get to skip cardio because the workouts themselves are cardio, because you can just superset absolutely everything, which is One of my favorite things. I love skipping cardio,
And
but
superset on a regular workout schedule as well.
yeah, but you can't superset like 8 sets back to
My
back to back
main
to back to back to
my
back to
main
back.
issue with the way that you do your full body is that you don't track your weights.
I do it now, actually. I have
Really?
started tracking them.
You have
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
You have started. Okay.
Yeah, Roger, Roger. My last workout, 10,000 kilograms of volume. We did standing calf raises, dumbbell shrugs, bicep curls, tricep extensions, lateral raises, push-ups, bent over rows, and overhead press.
I don't know. For me, right, like I do the same. Like some people, like James, I feel like you would get bored by doing the same workouts every single week in the gym. Is that fair to say?
Over a long enough time, yes.
Yeah.
Like
For me,
maybe once every 2 months. Yeah.
for me, that doesn't really phase me, right? Like after 8 weeks, I will change up my schedule because I just want something different. Also, after a while, your body kind of gets used to the lifts that you're doing, so you want to change it every 8 weeks. But I'm able to do the exact same weights on those days and be able to progressively push more weight every single time. And
Fair enough.
I'm doing like 4 of the same muscle groups. So by the end of it, I'm like, fuck, that was a good back day. That was a good chest day. I feel it. It gives me good time to recovery before I go ahead and do it again the next time.
Yeah. No, look, I can't make the argument that full body is optimal, but I will any day of the week I'll make the argument that it's good enough for 90% of the population and it's simple. Like it's dead simple. It's like a diet. You know, there's certain people who can, like, they say, you know what? I'm going to start keto. And then 30 years later, they're still doing keto. But there's a quote that's to the effect of the best diet is the one that you'll stick to. And for me, the simplest entry point into regular training splits is just go full body. It's simple, it'll do the job. And unless you can identify a specific place where it's not doing the job, you don't really need to change it. But I think we should stop fighting unless you're keen for another one and head back to some more questions. Today's
If you want to
Q&A
keep
session.
talking, I need to quickly run to the bathroom and grab a thing for my throat because it's so sore.
So we have one more question from Sarah. Thank you for giving us all of these questions. What if you're consistent and don't miss days? Is full body only good if you're inconsistent? So the short answer is no. I think that the reason you're asking it is because you're assuming that recovery is going to be the limiting factor. And to an extent, that is correct. But the reason that recovery isn't as bad as you think it would be is because the sort of like you will slowly over a long enough period of time get chronically fatigued, but you know, just do it like 6 days a week. If you're still chronically fatigued, you just take it back down to 5, which is the same as a bro split, you know. But the simplest answer of why you don't get fatigued is because during the workout, after like your first maybe 2 or 3 sets if you're supersetting, and like 1 circuit if you're circuiting, the systemic fatigue that you're going to feel is going to be just ridiculous. Like, if you imagine doing specifically a shoulder day, right? Like, they're tiny little muscles. You can just do this for hours and hours and hours on end, and there won't be any issues. Like, you're not going to come out of that. And, like, yeah, they're going to be sore, but you're not going to be tired. But then you compare that to something like a leg day, where, you know, you come out of it, and not only are your legs sore, but you are also completely beat and you're just dead. So with full body and recovery, which is the question that I think you're really asking, the thing is, like, the systemic fatigue, it's like a mini leg day every time. And so, as I say, it's not optimal because you can't push yourself as hard, but you get a lot more volume over the course of the week. And the recovery itself, like, you sort of self-limit by the intensity of the workout. If you were trying to do sort of a full body split, but you were doing one exercise, like let's start with squats. You do one set of squats, you wait 3 minutes. You do a second set of squats, you wait 3 minutes. You do a third set of squats, you wait 3 minutes. Then you say move over to the bench press. You do one set of bench press, wait 3 minutes. You do 2 sets of bench press. First of all, that workout's going to take like 2 hours. But secondly, like, you are going to run into a lot of recovery problems then. Full body is dumb. Ethan, do I have permission to look up PubMed articles that support my point of view?
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to quote them to you, but I won't have a source, unfortunately. In trained or untrained people, the actual muscle mass gained is the exact same between full body and regular splits. Just straight up. So there's no cost. Yes, over a long enough time, if you are training to be a very specific bodybuilder and you're paying a lot of money or you're getting paid a lot of money, when you're huge, then I'll believe you. Oh, man. Well, I'm just going to ignore that one. Post and ghost is how I'm going to tackle that. When you're huge, then I'll believe you. But the thing is, my goal is not to be huge. My goal is just to work out for fun and enjoyment and to look good.
And I think that's the main thing, right? Like, it's, you know? That's the big thing there. Like, we can sit here and argue about this for the next half an hour, but there's no point, because at the end of the day, it is what you want to achieve. Whether that be you just want to go to the gym and do full body because you just like lifting and you're going to get all your cardio because you're doing so many sets at the same time, or you have a specific physique in mind that you want and you want to get bigger arms, you want to get bigger back, bigger chest, bigger legs, bigger butt, whatever the fuck you want, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's your goals that you want. So we'll leave it there and go to the next question.
Amen. We're out of organic questions right now, unfortunately, which is a surprise because we've been talking about full body training splits for hours and hours, it seems like. But Joe's next question is, how can we balance the laid-back Australian culture with personal ambition and growth?
Sorry, can you repeat it? You cut out.
Apologies. How can we balance the laid-back Australian culture with personal ambition and growth?
That's the problem right there. The laid-back Australian culture. The fact that the AI said that, right, shows that Australians are fucking lazy. Okay, I'll tell a story about when I was at the I was at the pub a few months ago. Right, I was playing pool with my best mate, and he went outside to go have a smoke. So I went outside, sat there in the smokers area, hating it. And this guy comes up and he's drunk as all hell. And there was a security guard, and he was Indian, right? The guy that was off his head was so drunk and started like saying, "Oh, like, I'm not racist, but why do I see so many of you guys around?" Like, and then this woman joined in the conversation and she was like, "No, Australians are fucking lazy." Like, she was telling about, she calls up Telstra and every single time she's talking to someone that's not Australian. The reason why we don't have Australians in these positions is because they're lazy, right? Like, the government hands out money to people for being lazy. If you're on, like, any sort of welfare Centrelink, right? You may hate the fact that your Uber driver or taxi driver is from another country, right? But you can't talk because it's not fucking working. Like, that's the reality. Like, Australians are lazy people. So to be able to just do better, right? The barrier to entry is so low, and the barrier to entry is even lower in Australia because no one does anything. Like, our culture is just drinking and having barbecues. If you're just doing more work than those people for a long enough time period, you're going to win. And again, there's nothing wrong with like having a break, right? Like, everyone enjoys a little bit of a break. But I can't express the amount of frustration I have in my head right now.
Fair enough. Well, while you're articulating that frustration, I'm going to have a crack at it. I think the way that it's going to be difficult, but it's definitely possible to change the culture of a country. I think
Germany
you're unlikely. What was that?
Germany did it.
All right, man. Whoa.
I'm just saying, like, Germany was look at Japan, for example. They changed the entire culture of their country. They were
bruh.
Samurai is like, I will die on the battlefield, and now they're kawaii
Bruh.
like
we got a
bruh
in the chat. that was unhinged as it comes. Sorry, I think Ethan disconnected for a second there. Let me just reboot him. So assuming that you're not Hitler,
it's going to be the name.
It's going to be difficult to change the culture of an entire country all at once. So if you are in politics and you are likely to be prime minister, dictator, whatever, you do have a chance to change the culture of an entire country all at once. But if you're sort of not those 2 or 3 people in Australia, then I don't think that's something that you should worry about. You can't be concerned about trying to fix the Australian culture. What you can do is you can focus on changing the culture that's in your immediate vicinity, right? So as an example, I can't change the culture of Australia, right? 24 million people, it's not happening. I can't do that right now. But what I can do is I can go to one person in my group of friends and be like, hey, you're lazy. Go do work. Get off the couch. Do work. You're unemployed. Can't do that anymore, but that's still funny to me.
I just realized you're a piece.
Yeah.
You're a piece
No,
of
but
shit. Fuck you.
But like the smaller the circle that you're trying to operate within, the easier that it is for you to make an impact. So if you go up to a friend and you're like, hey man, I noticed you are on Centrelink and you haven't left your house in 6 months. Maybe you should leave the house and do something with your life. And they'll be like, oh, okay, you're a good friend. Thanks, man. And then you affect that one person. I think for me personally, the limit of what I can affect is probably somewhere around like my workplace. So I think I could have a solid but not massive impact in my workplace, and that's a good start. So focus on what you can control, which is sort of the culture of the people and places that are within your immediate vicinity. And by fixing them on a small scale, eventually you'll gain the skills and the network to be able to fix things on a much broader scale. And as far as your personal ambitions and such go, if you feel like you're struggling to achieve them because of someone else, it's not a reflection on the other person or the culture. It's a reflection on you. And you need to just go, right, well, I'm just going to be better than these people. And I'm going to do my things regardless of what they say, regardless of what they think, regardless of what they do. And I think that's how I would tackle that one. Do we have a new question there, Ethan? Sorry, I just saw you looking off to the side of the screen. I was wondering.
No, we don't.
No new questions. Well, in that case, Joe asks. No, that's a stupid question. What impact does the tall poppy syndrome have on individual growth, and how can we overcome it?
Sorry, I'm just looking at tall poppy syndrome.
So tall poppy syndrome is the idea that the first poppy to get cut down is the one that's the highest above the others. So the idea is like you're only going to get attacked if you're above everyone else or if you stick out. And if you just blend in with the crowd, then you don't get cut down and such. And so once again, the question was, what impact does the tall poppy syndrome have on individual growth, and how can we overcome it?
Well, considering I didn't even know what it meant, I've never really experienced it before. So maybe that's just because I don't have that level of influence yet. So maybe that's a future problem for me. I mean, I guess like looking back in my career pathways, I'm a very strong leader. That is sometimes, what's the word I'm looking for here? No, I can't think of the word I'm looking
Bazinga.
for. No, bazinga is not the word, unfortunately.
Bruh.
It'll come to me soon. Anyways. Who gave you this? Why are you here?
Knowledge.
Chat, if you know what word Ethan's talking about, you should let him know.
Nope.
Scare? No. Intimidate. That's the word I'm looking for. Intimidate.
Intimidate.
Like being a strong leader, like I know I am. I have very good influence over people just from knowing that I'm good at things. And sometimes that intimidates people and they don't like when their authority is questioned. So, but I just usually just overcome that and just be like, okay, well, that's your problem. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Bye. Yeah. Can't influence what other people think. So why waste time on it?
That's pretty much what I was going to say. Like you can't change what other people are going to think about you. Pretty much the same answer as the last one. Like, you just need to go, well, you know what? It's okay. I'm allowed to be better than you. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. Da-da-da-da. I'm just going to do me and you can do you. And then one day we'll all hug and talk about how silly we both were when we were in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. But one thing that I will say as well is, especially with how social media is becoming, people love to hate. And, the more that you're hating on other people, the more that you're contributing to that whole tall poppy syndrome for others. And I think one thing that you can do as sort of a mind experiment if that's you, and you're like, yeah, I comment on people's Instagrams, but only if they're dumb. One thing that you can do to sort of turn that back is, number one, comment sections are pretty much always a cesspool and should be avoided at all costs like they're poison. But the other thing is, if you realize, oh, I'm contributing to tall poppy syndrome, I am going to do the opposite. I'm going to instead, like, build up these people who are already successful. I am not religious, but I do have a lot of sort of woo-woo beliefs. I'm a big fan of you sort of maybe not receive from the universe what you are, but like you see what you are. Like whatever you see is sort of a reflection of yourself. And so if you start bringing other people up, you'll probably notice other people start to bring you up. And, it becomes this virtuous cycle. So that's what I'm thinking. Keys and me, I kind of experienced the tall poppy thing in high school. I was topping all the classes and everyone hated me for it and then started bullying me, laughing out loud. I should have a sound effect for that. I do not have a sound effect for laughter. Fun fact.
I mean, going off that, I don't know about you, James, but I also experienced that, right? Like, I was very much an overachiever in grade 11 and 12. I was doing 5 subjects, right? Maths B, Maths C, literature, chemistry, and music, right? On top of that, though, I was in like 3 of the school bands and then helped out with a whole bunch of the school projects, was school captain, worked pretty much 40 hours a week as well at Woolworths just because money, right? Did boxing on Monday nights, dance on Tuesday nights, tennis on Wednesday nights, trombone practice on Thursday nights, outside band on Friday nights, and then worked Saturday, Sunday, right? People hated me for it. But again, it's the whole thing of I just didn't care. Like, I was just living my life. They were off going to parties, smoking weed. I was like, I mean, that sounds cool, but you know what's cooler? Being me. That was so cringe, but
Bazinga!
I was happy doing my own thing, right? Like
Great success.
Like I was content just being me and doing me. Like, sure, I had fun sometimes, but I was just there like, all right, I want to get better at trombone. I want to do well at school and I want to make money. And they were my 3 goals for like those 2 years. And I achieved those goals. I finished with a really good ATAR. I got into the con, so that's a
yeah, get music for that. Oops, that was not the music I meant. There we go. Where'd that comment go? You know what's cooler? Being me.
Yeah, like I got into the con, so I was my trombone practice paid off. I got a good ATAR by the end of it. Didn't need it to get into the con, but it was still good to do it. I beat my sister, so I've still got that. I don't know if my brother's going to beat me, but we'll find out. And I had a really good amount of money saved by the end of high school. So I achieved all 3 of those goals that I wanted to do. If I had like that's not me like bragging, right? Like I'm just saying, when you don't focus on the outside noise and just focus what's in here, if you just do this and just focus on being you, like, fuck, you can achieve anything. Because you know what's cooler? Being me. I think we just leave it there for today.
No, we can't leave it there. We've still got 5 minutes more amazing big brain content about what's cool. And you know what's even cooler?
I mean, we can keep going longer if you want. Like, I'm fine.
We
with
probably
going.
can, but we're not getting any questions. It's all from Joe.
Well, true.
We have another amazing representation of this chat. Look at that. All right, maybe that should be our new logo. Who knows? We'll discuss later. But I've had a similar experience. I didn't deal with it necessarily in a good way, but
Ooh.
what I did do was I figured out like let's go with alternative strategy. So what I would do, right, to combat this tall poppy syndrome is part one. That's not where I was going, but we can talk about that soon. No, so what I would do,
that's where you were going with this.
instead of being a super duper hard worker who also got super duper high grades, what I did as my sort of like baseline coping strategy was I would just put in the absolute minimum effort possible and still get the good grade. But it wasn't as good as it could have been, right? Like everyone just knew me as like, oh, that's the smart guy. But I think because I didn't put effort into other things, what that meant was like, you know, other people, like it was a lot harder to sort of, I guess, like, you know, bully me, pick on me, whatever, just because like, you know, what are you going to do? Like, oh, you're so good because you didn't study. It's like, no, I put in no effort. Of course I'm just good because I'm great. And that totally contributed to like me, you know, having way too much of an ego, being a bit of a narcissist. Like that was definitely a contributing factor. Because as I say, I would put in no effort and still get good grades, not as good as they could have been. Like, you know, I could have done a lot better if I just put in work, but that was sort of how I dealt with the tall poppy syndrome. I was like, yeah, I am the tall poppy and I'm so much taller than everyone else because I get the same grades, but I study, da 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 da. I regret that a lot because, you know, I still to this day have like difficulties with conscientiousness and narcissism and such. But, you know, we're all works in progress. That's what I'm working on. But one thing that I did learn as a result of the tall poppy syndrome was maybe not being a leader, like you said, but or being intimidating, I suppose you said. But what I did learn was a lot more sort of social dynamics and how to just navigate friendships better. And, you know, like I couldn't be friends with everyone because there were people who would be like, you know, doing the soul poppy thing and it's like, oh, you think you're so much better than us, da, 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 da. And so I just got really good at like having acquaintances that I didn't at all consider friends and having friends that I did consider friends. And so by also choosing your friends wisely, you can sort of get around a lot of the social stuff. Like if you just choose your friends wisely, you lift each other up, you're not really going to go wrong in a lot of situations. And we have one final question, unless you want to follow that up, Ethan. But one final question.
I just want to defend myself real quickly. I use the word intimidating because that's how I feel. Like, I don't mean to try and be intimidating. All right. I just like people just like me. And so they come for me for questions. And sometimes leaders are like, oi, what are you doing differently? Maybe you can stop that. And I'm like, I know what I did, bro. I'm just being me. Because you know
what
what's
the dog doing?
Being me.
Bazinga.
All right. One final question. I'm going to take a short moment to grab some water and then I'll be right back.
I will do the same thing. Because I am thirsty, boy.
Well, while Ethan's gone, the next question, the final question, in fact. Thank you to Joe for making a lot of contributions. Thank you to Keys and me for leaving a lot of lovely comments. And thank you to Sarah Matheson for including a few questions for us. if you would like to have your question answered in the next edition of our Self Improvement Australia weekly Q&A, Saturday 10 a.m., please just send it in the school page. But our final question, thanks to Joe the AI, is how can remote workers in rural Australia access self-improvement resources? The simplest answer is Self-Improvement Australia. You know, digital communities make everything a lot more accessible to absolutely everyone. And if you're listening to this, you're already in Self-Improvement Australia, so you're in the right place. That's what I can comfortably say. But one thing that you could also do is just buy like a Kindle and, you know, download a lot of audiobooks and regular books onto that Kindle and just take that out into rural Australia, you know. Like, it doesn't need internet access. All you need to do is just download it all before you leave. And then, you know, when you're doing your remote work, fly in, fly out, whatever, you just open up your Kindle, you start reading self-improvement books that are tried and tested. We'll have a book list coming out very soon. And, you know, you're just reading the books, listening to audiobooks, getting your waterproof headphones so you can listen to them in the shower and such. And, you know, when you have internet access, staying in touch with Self-Improvement Australia. That's all that everyone else did, sort of pre-social media. And I think that's kind of all that you need to do. You just need to have a community and books. And do the stuff, obviously. But yeah.
Do the stuff that the book says. Like, I think one of the books that kind of changed me was definitely Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits was a really, really big one for self-improvement. I love that book. If you haven't read it, it's a fantastic read. I would strongly advise going ahead and reading it because it just, like, if you want to build habits, it's just the perfect, like, starter book. At the moment, I'm reading this, Hidden Potential. It's basically just finding out, like, your inner potential within your life, right? Like, this at the moment is really, really good. Oh my God. If you like bigger books, these two are amazing. Both of these are absolutely fantastic as well. I actually still need to read this one, but I've heard amazing things. This one was like a game changer for me.
Game changer. Love it.
Absolute game changer of a book. But I think, I don't know, my self-improvement journey, I've talked about this before, started with finance, right? Like, I was at Woolworths and I was like interested in stocks and some of the guys were into it. And one of the guys, Corey, he said, "Hey, I got a whole bunch of investing books if you want to read them." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "Start off with Rich Dad, Poor Dad." And I mean, look, Robert Kiyosaki is a bit of a crackhead, right? Like, don't get me wrong. But that book is amazing. And it's like 30 years old now, but the principles he talks about is still very much real today. So yeah, as James said, Self-Improvement Australia. All right, if you're in a rural area, you don't really have like a community, please join the group. Okay, we're doing some amazing stuff in there right now. Go onto Amazon, look at self-improvement books, anything with like 500 reviews plus, with over 5 stars or 4 stars, like within that range is going to be a really, really good place to start. Again, it's like, what are your goals, right? Like, do you want to just have a better mindset? Do you want to work out? Do you want to grow your personal finances? Right? Like, all of these things are built into self-improvement. And it just depends on what your main focus and objective is, whether that be a business owner, career growth, etc., etc., etc.
Bueno. Well put, sir. And that's going to do it for today's edition of our first live Self-Improvement Australia Q&A. Thank you everyone for joining us. And the music's coming in just one moment, don't you worry. But one thing that I would like to commend us all on is we are still, as of right now, in the top 5,000 groups on the website, which is very exciting. We've dropped like
5,000.
just shy of top 5,000 in the world. We've dropped just shy of 8,000 sort of places in the leaderboard. So kudos to you, Ethan. Kudos to everyone else who's been involved. And we're going to now start focusing a lot more on building up more members. So if you know anyone that might be interested, just let us know. We both have a discount link they can get in for $7 a month, I think we made it. So, you pay for 1 week and then you get the rest of the month free. Pretty sick. And yeah, you get access to all of this lovely stuff. And this time next week, 10 a.m. Saturday, we will be enjoying yet another Q&A live in the Self-Improvement Australia School Group. Thank you for joining us, Ethan. Muchas gracias, señor.
Muchas gracias, comrade.
Muchas gracias. And on that note, here we go for the outro music. See you, Ethan.
See you, James.